Vanessa, you mind? Let's get going, and then everyone else can catch up later.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining our last Fireside Chat of 2025 with the talented Macaela Vandermost, founder and CEO of Newfangled Studios. I'm Vanessa, resource manager at BN, and also the manager of the Flyer on the Wall initiative. With us are Han, co-founder at BN and director of the Flyers on the Wall, and Andrea Hendusa, designer and animator at BN and design lead too of the Flyers on the Wall. We will dive into the topic designer at scale, a new role in the modern advertising. Han and Andrea will ask two structured questions, and finally we will open the floor for Q&A. You will find a form in the chat where you can submit additional questions or upvote the ones you are most excited to get insights on. And now I would love to hand it over to Han, that will be the moderator of this Fireside Chat.
All right, thank you. Let me pin myself for a second here, if I know how to do that. Okay, everyone. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Macaela, right? I did a bit of background check on you, Macaela, and I found out that you were an intern at the reality TV show before you get into this. So I'm intrigued, interested to know, like, hey, you know, I think a lot of people in our industries come from very diverse backgrounds, right, to come into this field. It's great. It would be great to hear how that journey, you know, if you can just like quickly go over that. And of course, Newfangled Studios now serve globally known brands, like, you know, you guys work with Google, YouTube, Bank of America, to name a few. And the other thing too is I came to know Macaela because we share a passion and a goal to have more inclusion, a more diverse creative landscape. And we work very hard to achieve that goal. And I think, you know, I missed that Dash Bash that you had a talk at a couple of years ago, Macaela. And I know from your work that you guys do amazing work, and you actually have 3 studios in one. So to me, that's really amazing how a group of people can do so many different things. Most studios kind of specialize in a niche. So love that. I would love to also know about what you call the Northstar Framework, because I feel like, you know, you have a very clear mission statement. You have a very clear way of promoting your studios. And I think a lot of people on this call could learn from what that is, right? We work in marketing, and if you don't know how to market yourself, that's not so good, right? So with that, I'll hand over to Macaela Vandermost. You can intro yourself.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks everyone for coming today. And I know everybody's very busy, so I appreciate the time. I guess the first question was about how I got started. So yes, I worked in reality TV early in my career for a very unknown station called XYTV that was sort of like an early MTV. I'm dating myself, but this was a long time ago. When there were a lot less rules and the internet was a bit of a wild west, and you could broadcast any music you wanted and put ads against it on the internet. And so I worked on a reality TV show called Roomies, which is a ripoff of The Real World. And then about every 4 minutes, we would take a music break and we would just play whatever music videos were trending during that time. And then we'd come back to the show and we sold ad space against that. That was my first job. It started as an internship, and then I got hired for $8 an hour, not to brag, to be the editor. And that is where I really learned to tell stories. So just get footage dumped on me, and yeah, that was money. I'd get footage dumped on me without a lot of pre-pro or planning, and sort of just like make a story out of this. And I think honestly, my ascent into like creative direction came from being a frustrated editor. So I was an editor in reality TV, and then I went to be an editor in advertising, moved into commercials, and but always sort of more on the social side of things. or on like the longer form storytelling. And what I found is that if it wasn't a super tight 30-second spot, people just they were just getting footage and dumping it on me and being like, how do you make something out of it? And so I was a little bit frustrated with that and was like, I'm going to be a producer, because then I will have control, and then I won't be the one stuck in the edit suite in the middle of the night trying to fix what nobody thought through the details of earlier. And once I got into producing, I liked it, and I liked the control and the foresight of it, but it wasn't scratching my creative itch as much as I needed it to be. And from working in an edit suite, I was working all the time with creative directors, and I was sitting with creative directors in an edit suite and working with them on their ads and pitches and all these things in ad agencies. And I was like, you know what, that's what I want to do. I want to be the creative director. And so, as one does, I didn't wait for an opportunity. I just kind of gave it to myself, and I started a company and called myself the creative director. And that was in 2009. And we fumbled our way here to 2025, where we're servicing, you know, a lot of global brands, and, you know, everything from, you know, the Google app, Google Fi, a lot of campaigns for Google Pixel, Bank of America. We just wrapped a campaign with Anytime Fitness, Orange Theory. So we're doing a lot of really cool, interesting work now. And I think that for me, the key to success has just always been thinking about what's next and not waiting. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because we have a lot of change going on in our industry, and it can be scary. I know that I've had moments of feeling excited and moments of feeling terrified of like, where is our industry going? And so I've put a lot of thought into what these tools can do for us, and how we, as I like to say, get on the train or get run over by the train, your choice. But I think creative automation and AI are not going anywhere, and we need to learn how to navigate it, but also harness its power to bring ourselves and catapult ourselves to the next level. So like I said, Newfangled Studios is my agency. I started it in 2009, and the meaning of Newfangled, the meaning of the word, is different from what you're used to, objectively new. And lucky for all of us in this room, what is objectively new is always going to be changing. And so we can always be looking to what's the new and exciting thing that we can be working on. And I do think that creative automation and AI are a big part of that.
That's awesome. Side question. A lot of creative stuff you can totally fumble through, okay? But the thing that really puzzled me for your journey, Macaela, is like, you guys do strategy and all those things too. That stuff is not easy for a creative to learn. You know, you need to be taught somehow. How did that come about for you for your early journey?
I think for me, again, like I do feel like I tripped and fell into success a little bit. So early on, when I was working as an editor at the ad agency, I was spending a lot of time in a creative edit suite with very high level strategic thinkers, VP level creatives working on major campaigns. And I would listen to them. And I would hear what they had to say, and a lot of it was me eavesdropping. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they're sitting on a couch behind me, and I'm editing away, and they're talking about strategy, and they're talking about, well, the client says this, or here's how we should handle it, and it fascinated me. A lot of it is psychology, right? Which was like my favorite subject in school. I didn't major in it, but I loved it. And it's really just thinking like, okay, this is what they want, this is what they need. How do you bridge that gap? Whether that's, this is what the brand wants and this is what you want to sell them as a studio, or like, this is what the consumer wants and needs, and this is what the brand who's hired you. Either way, it's a bit of a psychology job. And so how did I learn that? I think I just tuned into it. But in that edit suite, one of the VPs I was consistently working with then went on to be the global creative director at Google, which was very advantageous to me in my career and how we started getting work with Google. And once you get in the ecosystem of some of these tech companies, they require you to think strategically. And in order to think strategically, you need to really be on top of what's trending, what's new. And so a lot of it for me is networking. There are newsletters I read every day. There are people who I follow on LinkedIn that I read their content every day. I'm part of Slack groups that people are constantly talking about what's going on and what's next. And I think it's really just about immersing yourself in it. And I mean, if you think of yourself as a motion designer and that's what you want to do, is like make the nicest curves that you can and make things move in a really nice way. Like, you don't need to be a strategy person. You can learn whatever the next technology is and still be super relevant. And so I'm not saying that like everyone needs to be, a strategic marketer. But if you want to own an agency or you want to own a studio, that's where strategy comes to play, because that's the difference between it being a commodity that you can outsource versus being something where they really need a member of their team to hit a business goal.
Awesome. I think Macaela just accidentally promoted being a fly on the wall. You know what I'm saying? Just eavesdropping in every single conversation you can along the way. That's the best way to learn. So I appreciate that. How about the Northstar Framework? Tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So Newfangled has defined its values as the Newfangled North Star. If you look at our logo, there's a star in the middle that was developed before that became the symbol of AI, which that was never the intent of that star, and we made that our logo before that happened. But anyway, the Newfangled North Star is all about our values, and we use it as a framework to make decisions within the company. So the top and the bottom of the North Star are what we call our push-pull. The top of it is creativity and innovation, and the bottom is business results. And so we say the foundation of everything that we do for our clients, it needs to get business results. But we want to push and pull into innovation and into creativity to be able to tell stories that are interesting so people actually want to listen to them. And then the left and the right of our North Star are our values. And there's no push-pull there. Those are like the immutable values. And what those mean can mean different things to different people within the company at different times. But on the left side, it's respect and inclusion. And on the right side, it's forward progress. So for us, respect and inclusion could mean the way that we're hiring. It could mean the way that we're representing on screen. It could mean taking on, work for a company that, honors our same values, or not taking on work for a company that does not honor our same values. Forward progress could mean like, in the grand scheme of things, we want it to mean, forward progress for the world and for society, but sometimes it just means forward progress for an individual person's career. Like, hey, let's take this role because, so-and-so really wanted to do some lighting and rigging and hasn't had the opportunity to do that. And this job will give them that opportunity. Let's take this one. So it can mean a lot of different things. For example, like respect and inclusion can also mean respect for each other's craft. So like an audio mixer needs to respect, the timeline and the guidelines that the producer is throwing down, and the producer needs to respect like what the audio mixer needs to get their job done and not be constantly questioning each other, respecting that everyone's coming from a bit of a different angle depending on your role in the company, and that it's all valuable. So that's the Newfangled North Star, is those 4 points.
I love that. I think what I love what you said too is the fact that a lot of times, when we think of a studio and agency, you don't realize it's really an accumulation of a group of people's creativity efforts. And you and I could be just the mouthpieces for the studio, but we're not the work. We're not the ones that make things shine. It's the whole people that make up the studio, the individual artists, producers, and whatnot. And I think, just in general, we don't see things that way, and it should be seen that way. That's awesome. So let's dive in. Today's topic is designer at scale, a new role in modern advertising. And I would love to frame today's conversation to be very tactical for our motion flyers and friends, because 2025 is super rocky for everyone. Studios, individuals alike. Where are the jobs? What the hell is AI doing to our field? All these concerns. And I think what you are doing at Newfangled Studios is that you are using a lot of tools, but you also are sort of like at this interesting intersection of like a social, everything is social now, let's be honest, right? Social first and advertising and motion design plays a big role in the day-to-day. And design at scale is something intriguing. And I want to let you say in your own words what that means. And you can set the ground rules however you want.
Sure. So one of the problems that our clients are consistently facing is the sheer number of deliverables needed to feed the content machine. At Newfangled, we typically do paid media, so like campaigns that have a media buy behind them. But our parent company Movement does organic, so that's like just the stuff that's going on people's own channels, like their Instagram, et cetera. And in both cases, there's just a massive amount of deliverables needed for everything. And what ends up happening is both artists and clients alike start to feel like they have to compromise between the quality and the integrity of the work and like the sheer volume of it. Like, how do you keep the quality high and still deliver on the bajillion assets that you need and make sure that they're all specific to where they're going to live? So a TikTok looking different than a YouTube pre-roll, for example. That's the biggest challenge that our clients are facing. And I think as an industry, we have the ability to solve. And one small piece of that, it's not the whole solution, but one small piece of that is learning how to think more as campaign systems and design systems rather than about individual assets. And I do, I see that the jobs are crunched and that the jobs are being outsourced overseas, and like there's less of a market now for motion graphics and like explainer videos and all of that done in the traditional way than there was 5 years ago. Like big companies were, drooling over these like sexy 1 to 2 minute explainer videos with the 30-second cut downs, and your full deliverables list would be like 4 videos, and you would spend months laboring over it and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fee, and it was awesome. And those days, unfortunately, at Newfangled anyway, are over, or very few and far between are the opportunities that come up. What is coming in the door is campaigns that need to be done quickly, that need to scale across different social platforms, and that have like 100 deliverables. So what today's talk is about is how we can leverage creative automation, and it's like this much creative automation and this much AI, to think about how we can like put our effort in the right place so that we can continue to be creative, but think more of like a systems designer than what traditionally we've been thinking of ourselves as like the artist of an individual asset. So that's sort of the groundwork for it. Show of hands, like give me a thumbs up if you feel like you really know what creative automation is. And if you don't, if people don't, I can step back and explain it. Okay, I've got 0 thumbs up. So let's.
We even have a thumbs down. What the heck, Marcel?
Yeah, even a thumbs down. Okay. So let me back up a little bit. Like, what is creative automation? So picture this, like you've just spent 2 weeks on the most beautiful 15-second motion piece you've ever created. The client loves it. The easing is perfect. The type is beautifully kerned. The transitions are slick. And then they're like, approved. And also, I just need a 9x16, a 1x1, a 4x5. We also need to localize it for 12 different countries. And we have 30 different products to feature. So if you could just swap out each of those and make me a bunch of different versions, that'd be great. And then last but not least, we can't decide if we want the blue background or the red background. So can you just give it to me for everything with both? And suddenly your title just went from like motion designer, creative, happy to chief versioning officer, and you are now facing weeks of the most mind-numbing, soul-crushing, repetitive work. And you're copying, pasting, resizing, exporting, and your time is all spent on this like really boring manual labor. I see people on my team laughing. I'm so sorry if this is you. And not on creativity. So how do we solve for that as creatives? And also because it just gets too damn expensive to pay talented people to do that full time, is you utilize creative automation systems.
So, Macaela, I'm sorry. I think it would be kind of maybe helpful for this audience to give them a bit of insight from the clients, right? I mean, why are the clients asking for these things? Because a lot of times they want to do A/B testing too, right? They
Yeah,
want to,
I mean,
they don't
usually
know
because
what
they're
creative
mean
works.
and they just want to make our jobs hard. Um, no, it's because they get pressure to make sure that everything that they're doing is data backed. So if there is any subjective question, like does the red logo work better than the blue logo? They're just going to say like, oh, it's probably not that much more to get it both ways, or honestly, they'll give it to me for free because it's easy. So I'll put both in market and see what performs better. Also, the way that media runs is different now. It used to be a lot more manual, where you would go in and you would set your audience and say like, okay, this is going to be women 30 to 35 in the Boston area who like pigeon sweaters, you know, like it's very specific. And then you go in and you put in the 4 different, you know, media assets that you made for it. You hit go and off it goes to the world. That's not the case anymore. Media buys are all done with AI now. That's right. It's minimum. Media buys are all done with AI now. And so what they have you do is just dump a ton of versions of different things in, and then AI figures it out. It sends the right stuff to the right people, and it just starts sending it to people and seeing like, okay, it's working over here. Let's push more of it there. It's working over here. Push more of it there. This isn't working. Let me stop using it. And the manual nature of it is completely taken away. So the more assets you have, the more successful your campaign will be. And so if, you know, Nike is spending $1 million in media on a media buy, like their media reps are going to say like, well, I need 50 assets then, you know? So that's why, like, should they be telling you that up front? Yes. You should also be asking up front. But honestly, a lot of times, clients who don't know any better will still go about it in the traditional way, thinking they only need X many assets. And then when they go to the media buy is like, no, you need way more. And then that's when it comes back and it turns into this like versioning nightmare. I do think clients are getting a little savvier and they're being more upfront with what they need, and because they've learned, but still that's why they need it, is just because the way media buying works now is different. You need volume for it to be functional.
Great. That's really great insight to know. So let's switch here and
do you mind if I just explain a little bit more about what creative automation is?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So to get more specific about what creative automation is, like going back to that scenario that I had where now you've got like 300 deliverables. You could make 300 different comps and render it all out and try to be really smart about parenting things and making rules. And like, that's the old way of doing it. But now the way that we do it is almost more like a reactive website, where like, you know, if you're on a website and you scale it down, it automatically resizes itself. And if you scale it up, it resizes itself, and it's smart and reactive to the way that you're looking at it. There are now ways within After Effects to use platforms, like there's one called Storyteq and there's another called Smartly, that essentially you use a plugin to tag the moving parts of your animation. And you would tag your text layer and say, this is the headline. And you would tag your product footage and say, this is the product footage. And then you would create essentially a single smart AEP file that then connects to a spreadsheet with all the different variables. So now the client is running this spreadsheet that says like, okay, I want the blue logo and the pink sweater and the this. They're checking off the different things they want on the back end of the spreadsheet. And when they hit render, it's connecting it like code. So the layer that you have, you know, as product is connected to a folder with 50 different products in it. One of them is called pink sweater. It'll pull in that right one. And so what it does is turn your After Effects project into a smart template that can be controlled by a spreadsheet. And it takes away all the manual labor of that versioning, and it allows the client to self-empower, which, you know, my first instinct about that was like, well, crap. I mean, that's good money that's going to waste. Like, they normally would pay us to do that. I don't want them to do that. Even though it's soul crushing work, it's still billable hours for our agency, and we all need to eat, right? But unfortunately, the days of us billing in that way are very limited. Clients are getting smarter and smarter. And so we as an industry, and newfangled studios included, need to evolve in the way that we're building things so that we can remain competitive with pricing. And so the names of those two platforms where it's controlled with After Effects are called Storyteq, and it's TEQ, like story TEQ, and Smartly. And then there's a third one, which is also an industry leader, called Celtra, but Celtra is kind of like a WYSIWYG, like it's for non-designers. Smartly is, clients would choose Smartly. And by the way, you're not going to get a choice which one you use. The client will have a subscription that costs like $100,000 a year. And so don't get it in your head that you're gonna have any power over that. The client's gonna say, yeah, we have a subscription with Smartly, we need you to build it in there, or Storyteq, or Celtra. With Smartly, it's really built around the media buy. So the way that Smartly prices, and the main service of Smartly is media buying. So if you were to create your After Effects file with all the tags, and the client goes into Smartly and actually puts in their media buy and says, okay, I'm going to buy Meta and Instagram and this and that. And then it's going to connect in and make you the specific things you need for that social media buy. And the way it's billed is like how much media spend and everything. So that's how Smartly works. Storyteq is a little bit like, that one would be preferred probably for artists, where that one you do connect in an After Effects file in a very similar way. But it's not connected to a media buy. It's connected to what you creatively ask of it. And so what it allows the clients to do is self-service through basically drop-down menus. And what I want to talk to you about today, and like why you should care and why we should try not to be mad about this, is that we get to move away from being like individual 30-second spot creators to thinking about it like a system. So you are now creating templates, and a template is a yucky word and it feels very not creative. But you have to remember that the quality of your output is 100% dependent on the quality of the input, and that you as the creative get to be the input. And so these platforms need designers who understand craft. They need your understanding of like timing, composition, easing. And in fact, like the platforms like Storyteq and Smartly are built to ingest your native After Effects files, so that like the beautiful easing of your curves and your parented rigs and your native expressions, which by the way, I can't use like third-party plugins, and it can't use like really crazy expressions, but it can do pretty normal stuff. But then you also have to think about it like, well, how do I make this not breakable? So how do I design an animation that's going to look great with a 5-word headline or a 20-word headline? How do I rig this layout so that the product could be on the left or on the right and have things auto flow? And essentially you stop being an executor of like executing someone's storyboards, and you become more of an architect. And that is how I would say that moving from execution to architect is what is going to bring more value and move you from being more of a commodity to a real partner, either to creative studios if you're an individual motion designer, or if you're a studio, being much more of a partner to your clients. So yeah, that was essentially what I wanted to make sure that everyone understood about what creative automation is. And then on the back end, you know, what the client is doing is saying like, is making it contextual. So, you know, an audience wants to make an audience wants to see something that's contextual and relevant to them. So there could even be things in there that's like, load this layer if it's raining out, load this product if it's, you know, if it's a little girl, you know, load this product. If it's a grown man, load this product. Like, it's knowing who you're serving it to and being contextual with like the time of day and where you are, and allowing the ad to change and evolve based on where it's being served. And you as the motion designer get to create and dream up like all the ways that that could come to life, and then sort of lay it out for that, but then not have to like sit there and manually render it all.
So yeah, that's really awesome, right? So let's bring it back to the team needed to do something like that, right? That's the part that I feel like, okay, you mentioned, being similar to an architect, like designer as the information architect in a way. But I'm assuming it's not one person who would do this. Yeah, let's just say, I'm just going to throw an example. If you said Nike had $1 million media buy, let's just say that, right? And I give you a project. What kind of team would be needed to do a project like this?
Well, I mean, first you would need someone on like the account and strategy side to really understand the business problem and jump in and say, what are we trying to achieve here? And then that's where those are the people who would kind of come up with like, well, here's the angle, right? We're going to, for Nike, it's going to be, I'm making this up, it's going to be about running shoes, and we're going to make it, depending on where you live and the type of surface that is by your house, the right running shoe for you. Maybe we can find that information in Google Maps or something and map it to you. And so if we know those are the parameters and that's what we're trying to achieve, then we need a creative director, an art director, and a copywriter to come up with like, what is the campaign concept? What's the tag? What are we building all of this off of? Like, what does it look like? Once we have all those types of things, you work kind of hand in hand with the strategy and account people to come up with the exact deliverables list. That deliverables list is then going to drive all the different layouts and the templates that you need. And so if we have, let's say we have 6 sneakers and we have 4 cities that it's going to, and then we have 3 weather conditions, we need a template that can do all of those different things. And then we need to localize it across 4, countries or 4 languages, for example. And so it's those strategy people can help outline like, all right, well, we need to think about the headline being this long or this long, and these are the product images we can use, and they kind of set those ground rules. But then the motion designer, will work with the copy and art team to develop what that animation is going to look like and what assets need to be switched out. And it's just a lot of trial and error to start to create the templates that won't break.
And what special skills do motion designers need to be a part of a team like that, besides just After Effects?
Well, I think After Effects is still a huge part of it. You're still developing these templates unless the client is using Celtra, in which you would use After Effects to build the initial stuff to get it approved, and then you have to rebuild it in Celtra. But if they're using Storyteq or Smartly, you're ingesting your AEP file. So your tools are still the same. I mean, your design is probably going to get done in Figma. If it's going to be static, you can go right from Figma into a Smartly or a Celtra. Your animation is still going to be in After Effects. And then any bells and whistles, if you want to use, 3D tools and all those types of things, it still just needs to get ultimately imported into After Effects and rendered down to a baked file in order to be used in the system. But the tools really don't change. I think the new skill is, digging into these platforms and understanding their limitations and thinking about scale from the beginning instead of having it be an afterthought and having it break everything. So the good news is you already have the skills. It's not really anything new. It's just a bit of a mindset shift of thinking like automation equals bad robots into automation equals me continuing to be able to do this job and not spending all my time versioning.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. We good to jump to some Q&A, maybe?
Sure. And I want to be clear on something. I am the CEO and lead creative at Newfangled Studios. I am not a motion designer. It's probably 10 years since I've opened After Effects. I don't animate. I have a team that is wonderfully talented that animates. I don't design. I have a team that's wonderfully talented that designs. I'm like the high level thinker and bringer of creative ideas to the team. So I can answer questions that are at that level. And if you have, I'm seeing some like specific tech questions come in, I probably can't help with that. So I don't want to mislead anyone. Like I'm not a tech wizard. And I probably can't help with that stuff, but it's good to know what you guys are thinking about. And I certainly have people on my team who could answer questions like that.
Very cool. Thank you for that. All right, so let's jump in. I'm gonna give me 1 second. I'm gonna pin Andrea first because Andrea had a question that's relevant for everyone here. Andrea is on our team. He's the Fly on the Wall Mentorship Director, and we're gonna pretend like he is someone out of school looking to this field. Go ahead and ask your question, Andrea.
Thank you. Okay, as a recent graduate, I see design becoming increasingly system oriented, smart templates, toolkits, and ecosystems. What are the most valuable skills to acquire right away to work effectively with this scalable system? And in a world driven by automation and AI, which human-centered skills do you think will define the next generation of creative and motion designers?
Can you repeat that last sentence for me, please?
In a world driven by automation and AI, which human-centered skills do you think will define the next generation of creative and motion designers?
Okay, so the skills that you need to be successful, first of all, you need a strong technical foundation either way, and you need taste level. What's wonderful about AI is that it can take away some of the AI and creative automation. It can take away some of the mundane. It doesn't have taste. It doesn't care if it kicks out something that looks ugly or not. And so the number one thing that you need to do is immerse yourself in what's good, what's not, be open to feedback, listen to people who are senior to you and who have been in it, even if you don't like their feedback. Because it's having a taste level and having an understanding of like the why behind the design decisions is the biggest differentiator for me between someone who's junior and someone who's more senior level. So that's one thing that I think is really important to work on. And it's more of a soft skill. It's not a hard skill. On the technical side, I think prompting AI is going to become more and more important, or already has become really important. And people who are going to win at it know how to break down visuals or break down pieces of creative in a way that they can be described. So if you are, let's say, using AI to generate frames, like not just typing in the scene that you want, but starting to really build out the rules. And again, it's about design and system thinking, like what is the tone of the lighting? Like what sort of the lens, you know, is this pretend camera using? What time of day is it? Are there any artistic styles that we want to reference that we can upload? You know, anything that you have. I mean, for me, I've done a lot of live action production. So if I generate, I tend to like get really specific about what camera it's shot on, what lens, what angle. Like I try to pull in my expertise from being on set. But, you know, people at Newfangled, I have illustrators there who could really talk about illustration style. So I think figuring out like what your lane is going to be there in terms of like your prompting style, and then learning to prompt in a way where AI is making your vision a reality versus playing like, you know, slots and just seeing what comes out with random prompts. So yeah, I think taste level, prompting, and then obviously like a strong technical foundation would be the most important things.
So be intentional with the prompting.
Oh, extremely intentional. Yeah.
And about After Effects, do you think it's better knowing how to animate or expression to create a smart template, let's say?
I don't think I can answer that with any level of
Okay.
authority. Sorry.
Okay, don't worry, that's fine.
All right, if any Newfangled people in the chat, maybe you can drop the answer in the chat from Macaela regarding any kind of After Effects skills and whatnot. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna call someone from the question list here who is also here. So maybe you can ask the question yourself. Nielsen, are you here? Let me see, checking to see if you're here. If so, unmute your mic.
I'm here, but honestly, I forgot the question I sent. I'm sorry.
All right. So I'll ask for you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. So Nielsen is a freelancer, and he's asking you, as someone who's in position to hire, tell us a hot take for freelancers reaching out to studios like Newfangled Studios.
For reaching out to us?
Yeah, for reaching out to you. Like what would, I guess the hot take, Nielsen, maybe you can fill in now that I repeated your question. Maybe you have a bit more context you can give us.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna try to say this in a nice ways, and it's like, what would you think is like something we as a freelancers think that might be that we might be thinking in the wrong direction? Okay, like the best way to reach out to studios is like doing X stuff, and you're saying no, that's like undervalued, or that's not well perceived, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think knowing what value you add is important. Like I started out by saying, like, you know, I do have a lot of strategy chops, and that's a big part of what I do, but I'm not a motion designer. And sometimes I think I get reach outs from motion designers who like feel a little lost in that. It might be like, hey, I do strategy and motion design, and I can help your clients like sell more widgets. And like, when I'm booking a motion designer, I'm not looking for that part. And maybe some studios are, but for Newfangled, if we're booking a motion designer, we're looking for technical experience, taste level, just like, is your easing and your timing good and all of that. So to me, it's more like, send me your portfolio and your rate and your availability. And that's the most useful thing to me. And I can look at it, or just tell me like, what's your ideal project, or what kind of project you're looking for. Trying to like pretend that you are like a business guru on top of it. I get that a lot, and I don't really believe it, or there's not a role here for that anyway. It's like, you're either more on the business and the strategy side and like the big thinking side, or you're more on the like artistry and craft side. So yeah, that would be one thing. And then the other thing is just being easy to work with, not having a big ego. I think there's so many options of who to work with, and we really do get a lot of inquiries about work. And the table stakes is that you have a good portfolio, because we are working with big brands who expect that. But once you come on, some people tend to be like very easy to work with and responsive, and they're like, it's like even though we're remote, we're not like wondering, are they going to write back? Are they like, what are they doing? And then other people kind of like disappear for the day, and then like at midnight post up a file, and you're like, what, like, this is wrong because you weren't available all day to talk about it. And so it sounds like silly and obvious, but I'd say what separates a freelancer that we work with again versus a freelancer that we work with once is, are you worth your rate? So price yourself accordingly. Don't price yourself too high if you're not quite worth that yet, because you might get booked once, but you won't get booked twice. And then the second piece is, were you easy to work with? Did you just make it easy for the producer and enjoyable and not pushbacky on every note? And those are the things that'll probably get you booked twice. But to get booked once, you just have to have a good portfolio.
Yeah, and I would add a bit to that too, Nelson, is when you reach out to a studio like Newfangled or us, and I get this all the time, is people plug in a generic statement. You haven't done your research. If you want to reach out to Newfangled Studios, you should be very interested in the kind of work they do. The same thing with us, right? So a lot of freelancers just plug and play, and that never works. That we just like tune out completely. I'm gonna ask. Sorry, Nelson.
No, I was just gonna say thank you both for that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question from the list before I open up the floor, because I feel like this question is relevant for a lot of people. Brandon, are you here? Brandon is a teacher at SCAD.
Yes, hello.
Okay, you see your own question, Brandon, on the sheet?
I do, because just like
Okay.
Nilsson, I forgot what my question was.
Okay, so
Okay,
I want to give a bit of context before Brandon asks. But Brandon is teaching students in school coming out into the outfield. So go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I feel like Macaela has addressed some of this, already, but the question that I had wrote was, do you see any changing trends in campaigns across social and video? And if so, do you have any recommendations for how young aspiring designers can prepare themselves?
I think, part of this is like, when you say trends, like, are you talking about like actual social trends, like trends on social media, or are you talking about trends in the industry?
I would say like design trends, or like trends in like the creative side.
Yeah. Okay. I can talk about a few of those, like, creatively. I think one thing that's on the rise is less expensive looking polish and more just being clever. So I think it was like a public library or something recently went viral because they just did this like silly thing with the trust fall. It was like no production value at all, but it was smart and it was silly and it was funny. That kind of stuff gets more views on the algorithm than like a super polished ad that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so what can we actually do about that as people who have spent their whole lives building up the skills to make the polished ads? Well, I think it's thinking in like smart, almost like match moves and smart trickery of the eye to do things that are clever on social. So you'll see things that are gags where it's like, there's a phone and then the hand come in and like pick something out of the phone. Like those little VFX gags are a big trend right now that are harder to produce, that like they really get a lot of views on social. That if you can think about those types of things, we worked with a creator for Google Pixel who was doing things like, pretending to swipe and like the background behind him, the environment behind him was changing and things like that. They're like pretty simple to execute, but it's more like, it's just like a very simple VFX mindset that has to do with just kind of stopping the scroll and feeling a little bit unexpected. So I think trying to think in less expected ways and not valuing so much like something because it looks expensive, but valuing it more because there's a little bit of surprise or shock factor would be probably pretty valuable right now.
I feel like a good example is like Zach King.
Yeah.
He does a really amazing job. Like his visual effects works are really great, but they're not like Hollywood effects. But I think it's just they feel very human. They feel relatable and fun and unexpected. And I think that as designers, we sort of have to think kind of like human-centered approach first, right? What triggers those, elicit those emotions and reactions and engagement from our audience versus being more introspective and think, my craft, my art is it, and you should enjoy what I create versus serving others.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Macaela and Hung. Appreciate that answer.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, at this point, we have just 10 minutes left, so maybe we can take 3 questions. And please, everyone, keep your questions short. Right? We're going to try to get 3 live questions in, and I'm going to go by the queue. So raise your hands if you want to do that. I'm going to open up the queue here. Igor, you are the first. We cannot hear you, Igor. Okay, I still cannot hear Igor. I'm gonna go to secondhand, Igor, and come back to you, okay? See if you can fix your audio issue. Secondhand is Rachana. Go ahead, please.
Hello. How are you? Just generally asking. Sorry, I know it's said to keep it short, but
Oh, good. I'm good right now, talking to lots of talented, creative people.
so my question, as a new grad, or what are your expectations from new graduates? because our portfolios are not going to be as fleshed out as someone who's been in the industry for a long time. So what are your expectations?
When we hire someone who's junior, or someone who's new, my expectations are, one, in like their mindset and their soft skills, like be easy to work with, be humble, be willing to do the stuff that, you know, other people may not want to change the disclaimer 300 times, and you are more than happy to do that as a new grad is part of the expectation of the job. And the other thing is like, and probably the more important thing is show passion. So this is not an easy industry to get a job in. It really isn't. And it's certainly not an easy industry to crack into if you don't know people. But the way to crack in is to show that you have passion. And the way to show that you have passion is to be doing projects. So just be a creator. We live in a world where it's all democratized. You have access to tools and tutorials and all these amazing things. Like if I were a new grad right now, I would have a super active TikTok channel showcasing my work. And it doesn't need to be brand work. It just needs to be interesting and like have a point of view. So that's what I would expect, like a great attitude and an eagerness and a hunger and a passion to learn.
Thank you.
Igor, are you back? Can you say
Yes,
something?
I've switched to
Go ahead.
Hello, Macaela. Thank you for great information, technical, and I kind of have experience with similar campaigns that was created previously in Flash, and they was like automatically adapted to various platforms sizes. And firstly, we were creating creatives with rich effects, some kind of games, interactions, and interesting kind of things. And later it all switched to basic layouts where is shown some information, short description of the product, maybe some images, and that's all. So you said about design systems, and obviously it's the major part of the work. So you have to prepare everything in Figma as a designer, I guess. So it's probably about, it needed to be 70–80% more like a designer than a motion designer. And so what's the what's the focus of the job? So what you have to like spend most of the time to and learn some kind of Figma more work.
All right, so you're asking like if you're on more of the animation side right now of the job doing more complex things, like what do you need to sustain that because of the forecast of the industry?
Well, will it be necessary to for a motion designer to be like involved in thinking about the campaign and proposing some variants of animation or some kind of cool things, like it was discussed previously, like some VFX or some interesting kind of hooks, animation hooks to catch the attention, or it will be everything already prepared by creative directors or someone who will be just suggesting what to do, and then you just receiving the task.
So I can't speak for the industry at large, but I can speak for Newfangled. The ideas come from the art director, the creative director, and the copywriter typically. So that's going to be the general direction of what we're doing. And then the idea is like, once we say, okay, this is the general thought of what we're doing, here's some examples, here's some storyboard frames. An animator brings that to life, but we expect them to bring something to it. So literally it shouldn't be just make it move, but make it move, add finesse, like you use your taste to make it better. But if you're more interested, Igor, in like coming up with the concept, then at Newfangled, it's probably not the motion designer coming up with that. They're making it beautiful and making it even better. Like they're more executing on that idea and adding value to it. If you want to be the one coming up with that original idea, I mean, it's usually more of like on the art direction side.
Yeah, I could add a bit of that too, Igor, is if you think about the creative director and art director to come up with this story, but the animator is the storytelling part, right? You have to tell that story in a way that brings your own unique taste to it. It's not just like, oh, you want me to slam the text in, right? That's like anybody could do that. We don't need you, right? But that's your creativity should come through in animation.
Yes, Igor, if you work direct with clients, you'll have more creative input. The more layers you put in between you and the client, the more executional you'll be.
Okay, last question. Severo, go ahead. Can't hear you, bud.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Yes.
So how do you manage explaining or walking clients through all these technical aspects and innovations of what you spoke about, Storyteq?
I think I just break it down like, it's almost like the 2016 explainer, right? When you're like, explain it to me like I'm a toddler. And you break down complex things into just regular human ways to explain it. So just like I explained it to you guys, like I told a little story, right? Like you need this thing, and then now the client wants all of these, and now you're in versioning hell. Instead of that, you could do this. And that's for any new technology. I start with the problem that it solves, and you tell that as a little story, and they go, yep, I relate. I've been in that problem before. Okay, well, here's a solution for it. And focus less on the tech piece of it and more on the problem that it solves, a bit like in story form.
Okay, great. Severo, you good? All right. Okay, everyone, we got 2 minutes left, so we're gonna close this out. I'll pass this back to Vanessa. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Macaela, for this valuable time. Here are the contacts of Macaela for everyone who wants to follow her. This is the last Fireside Chat of the year, and we are really happy to have many motion flyers, studios and freelancers join us. You can check the last chats in our Fly on the Wall Fireside Chat YouTube channel. Here are the studios that are part of the Flyers on the Wall initiative and the Fireside Chat that we have done during this year. To close this session, we would like if everyone can open your cameras. We would like to take a picture to leave this like a memory. So if you can, all of us, we can.
We're wrapping out the Fireside Chat with Macaela for the year. So if you don't mind, if you can turn on your camera, then we appreciate that.
It's a great way to close this year with Macaela.
And I don't know how to show everybody, so I'm not the one taking the picture. So Andrea, I don't know whoever knows how to do that in Google Meet. I don't know how to do that.
Andrea, can you?
I think it's not possible having everyone in the screen.
Okay, maybe we switch from screen to screen, maybe, and then we.
I know how to do it. I got you.
Post. Okay, you got it.
I got you. All right, we still got a bunch of cameras off on the bottom.
Yes, come on, y'all.
Come on. Oh, you know what? There are a bunch of note takers. That's what it is.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, 3, 2, 1. Cheese it up. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Macaela, so much for this chat. It's been invaluable, I think, for a lot of people, for myself included. I learned so much this time on this chat. So appreciate everyone. If you want to know more about the Flyers on the Wall program, go to fotw.co. And we love to have you in the future Fire Chats next year. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Macaela. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.